So by now, you've probably seen the clip. If you hadn't seen, yesterday we had the Chicago Blackhawks playing off against the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers ended up winning 4-3 in overtime, and during the TNT broadcast of the game, you had yourselves one very particular video segment where Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty, made some really interesting comments about Chicago Blackhawks' first overall pick, superstar in the making, if not already a superstar, friend of this show, Connor Bedard. Yeah. Paul Bissonnette was talking about one of the most popular Lego Rocks 99 stream moderators, Connor Bedard. And the video did go kind of viral. It's at 1 million views right now on social media. And essentially the thesis of the video segment is Bissonnette showing a bunch of clips of Connor Bedard trying to do his thing in the Edmonton Oilers zone, but these things in these clips do not work. Bedard is trying to dangle by guys one-on-one. It doesn't work. He makes light passes. It doesn't work. He tries to do his nifty tricks. It doesn't work. And Paul Bissonnette's main idea in this video segment is essentially that in order for Connor Bedard to truly become a superstar in the NHL, he needs to learn the right moves to do at the right time. He says that the way Connor Bedard's playing, it's like pond hockey. You also had Henrik Lundqvist on the broadcast, not really like defending Connor necessarily, but softening the blow by quite a bit by saying, hey, like for Connor, on a rebuilding team, it's really difficult for him to learn the proper habits, to know when it's time to dump the puck in and go chase it, or know when it's time to give up on a dangle and just make the right play instead. And Hank makes a really good point here by saying that this is kind of where rebuilding teams have difficulty in exiting the rebuild, because a lot of these rebuilding teams, they have these habits where it's like, okay, you can take risks, you can try to make the fancy play, you can do this, you can do that, because you're not really playing for anything. And so trying to transition out of that culture into a system where you're a lot more disciplined and you make the right play rather than the flashy play, that's difficult for rebuilding teams. And Bissonnette then replies saying, yeah, like, I understand that, but if the Blackhawks want to get back to their dynasty, Connor Bedard's got to make better, more mature decisions in his game. And the interesting thing about this segment is it's very critical of Connor Bedard. But the social media response, at least based off of what I'm seeing, you're seeing a lot of people saying, like, oh, why does Biz Nasty need to go out there and criticize Connor Bedard? Connor has, like, 5 times the points that Bissonnette has in the NHL. Why is Biz the guy to call this player out? He's not the right guy for the job. And then there are a good chunk of people saying, yeah, like, even though it's not maybe the right messenger here, the message itself isn't necessarily wrong. That Connor Bedard may indeed need to be a bit less flashy, that maybe he tried some dangles that didn't work, that got easily picked off, or he tried some passes that ended up being turnovers for the Oilers. And this was met with a lot more discourse about whether or not the Chicago Blackhawks team around Bedard is fitting for him to be able to exhibit that kind of growth. There have been people all over my mentions and just all over my feed saying, hey, like, they should move Bedard to the wing. Take him away from the center spot, because as a center, he has more responsibility. He commands more of the middle of the ice. If you give him a winger position, then all of a sudden he can focus on those nifty plays. He can probably produce a bit more points. He can look a little flashier. He can get his confidence back up. The team can just throw it over to him and he'll do everything because he's that good. And then there's a little bit of discourse about the players that he's playing with, like, for example, the pass that Connor Bedard made through everybody that ended up getting picked off and came back the other way for the Oilers. There are plays where the Chicago guys just completely bobbled the pass, and Bedard looks like he's shrugging his shoulders because the guys that received the pass weren't able to receive the pass. He's not playing with the best team in front of him, so I think that has to be taken into account. And then you have yourselves the other response saying, like, hey, why is it even necessary to bring this kind of a point up about Connor Bedard? Here's a reply from Brian. It's crazy that the same national media that put unrealistic expectations and hype on an 18-year-old are now tearing him down as a 19-year-old. Just let the kid play hockey already. WTF? And then you had Patrick Maroon go out there and talk about the same thing. They asked him earlier this morning on Daily Faceoff about that Connor Bedard clip from TNT, And Pat Maroon goes out there and defends Bedard very, very well. He says that, yeah, like, he is a really good kid in the room. He's a really big gamer. He has skill. He has a lot of potential. He's hardworking. He wants to learn. He wants to be the best he can every single day. And Maroon's argument is, if you try to take away the competitive nature in Bedard, that drive, that desire to always be the best and to have that mentality of being on top, then you take away what makes Connor Bedard Connor Bedard. And it's that same drive that allows him to do these creative and insane things on the ice, the Michigan goals and the nifty dangles and everything in between. Sure, Maroon says we don't want him doing it every single shift. He's got to dump it in once in a while. But to eliminate that part of his game is to eliminate what makes Connor Bedard effective in general. You then had Connor Bedard himself reply to everything that was going on in what looked to be a post-practice interview from earlier today. He went out there and said, I don't need to watch a broadcast to figure out if I made a mistake. I'm going to know. And if you watch this video, he was very good in his response. Like, he was diplomatic. He was saying, yeah, like, I know those media guys, they have a job to do. They have to talk about stuff. That's what they're paid to do. But I don't need to listen to a TNT broadcast to understand if I made a mistake. I'm gonna know. And so honestly, I kind of feel bad to call this even like drama. I don't really think it's drama. It's just Biz Nasty saying something about Bedard's game, criticizing it, and then Bedard and everybody else responding in accordance. It doesn't really feel angry from anybody's point of view. Nobody's really like upset about this. I mean, there are some people in the replies, like some fans that are getting a little bit, you know, salty about Biz Nasty being the guy to point this out, etc. I mean, here's a post that I thought was actually really good. We should bring this up as well, as posted by L Bloom 84. I think the criticism from Biz Nasty is fair in some cases when done constructively. Where you lose me personally is when he does make good plays off the puck or defensively, and it's not brought up. Obviously, his offensive highlights are shown everywhere, but the narrative that's being driven is that he's awful defensively and doesn't try or whatever, but that's just not true. He's obviously not prime Taves defensively, and that's a ridiculous expectation, but he can hold his own, and that's not being portrayed on these broadcasts. And at the end of the day, Connor Bedard's 19. What were you doing when you were 19? I was in college trying to do what it was that I could to get a radio career when I had this YouTube channel also sitting on the back burner as my side hustle. Not to degrade myself, but I wasn't a pro hockey athlete making hundreds of thousands of potentially millions of dollars with the eyes of the entire continent on my performance. Connor Bedard is so young that he will have time to go out there and develop more consistently projectable habits on the puck and off the puck. He's already been pretty fine in that respect in his early stages of his career, and I get that you can say that there are some other guys that have been doing it better, per se, like Macklin, Celebrini, in San Jose. You don't really have the same discourse going on about him, mostly because Celebrini is already a really, really strong off-puck player. Like, this was already talked about on several shows and everything, but the way Celebrini handles himself in board battles, how he goes and retrieves the puck, how he plays when he doesn't have it, it's ridiculously polished for somebody who's only 18. He plays like a veteran. He was just born in 2006. And I get it, Celebrini is bigger than Connor Bedard, so he has a little bit of an edge there, but he is one of the best defensive players on the San Jose Sharks already at 18. And so we've seen other younger guys do that. Connor Bedard, smaller, more skilled. I think he has a lot more of an offensive ceiling than Celebrini does, and I think over the long term, Bedard is going to have more 100-point seasons than Celebrini does too. It's just, right now, in 2025, we're taking a look at his tape and saying, hey, the guy made a few turnovers. They happened because of plays that he made. Oh, he didn't dump the puck in. Oh, he should have chipped it in instead. Oh, he tried a dangle and it didn't work. Oh, the Oilers were all over him. Oh, he gave up a rush to Connor McDavid. And Biz Nasty was the guy to go out there and point it out on TNT. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Connor Bedard, Paul Bissonnette situation in Chicago? And what are your thoughts on the way that Bedard is being portrayed by the media? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair? Do you think there are some extra details that need to be said? Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? I'll leave links in the description to all the videos that we had seen, Bissonnette's, Pat Maroon's, and Bedard's himself. Thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about this all? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.